Turn to U.S., Japan, China.
Sure.
Would you agree with what Defense Secretary, excuse me, Austin said, that he doubts that a Chinese invasion of Taiwan is imminent? We had a Rear Admiral, Naval Intelligence official today saying that the stakes have gone up and the danger level is something we need to take very seriously.
I think both things can certainly be true. And this was the point Secretary Austin was making yesterday. Of course, we don't have any formal assessments to share, but both Secretary Blinken and Secretary Austin spoke to the challenge that we've seen, not over the course of recent months, but over the course of recent years. Assertiveness on the part of the PRC. Assertiveness that, in our estimation, is an attempt to undermine the long-standing cross-strait status quo. The very status quo that has maintained peace, security, stability across the Taiwan Strait for decades. Just as the PRC is attempting to chip away at the status quo with these aggressive maneuvers, with these provocations, with these implicit threats against Taiwan, we, on the other hand, working hand in glove with our Japanese allies, with other allies in the Indo-Pacific, seek only to bolster the status quo, to maintain, to preserve the status quo and the peace and stability that it has brought to the Taiwan Strait over the course of decades now. We oppose unilateral change in the status quo by either side. We will continue, just as we have, with calm, resolute steps to uphold peace and security, resolute steps to uphold peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. Part and parcel of that is the U.S.-Japan alliance. It is the cornerstone of peace, of security, of prosperity in the Indo-Pacific. And of course, that includes in the region we're talking about now. The very steps that Secretary Blinken, Secretary Austin referred to yesterday, the steps that will enhance our alliance, that will make it more effective, that will seek to adapt it to the challenges and the opportunities, for that matter, that we face now. Those are crucial elements to our efforts to advance our vision for a free and open Indo-Pacific, and as part of that, to maintain peace and stability and to maintain the status quo across the Taiwan Strait.
Could you also talk a little bit about how the closer cooperation directly affects the threat from North Korea?
Well, of course, the DPRK poses a threat to Americans on the peninsula, to our allies in the region, of course, to our treaty allies, Japan and the ROK, and potentially beyond. So it is a threat that we and our Japanese allies take seriously. It is a threat that we and our South Korean allies take seriously. It is a threat that trilaterally, as partners, the United States, Japan, and South Korea take extraordinarily seriously. Yesterday, you heard from Secretary Blinken, Secretary Austin, and their Japanese counterparts of our determination to maintain readiness, to maintain the effectiveness of our alliance, and to be in a position to deter and, as necessary, confront the threats that we face together as an alliance. One of those threats, perhaps the most challenging threat to regional peace and security we face at the moment, is that from the DPRK, namely its nuclear weapons program, its ballistic missile program as well. We discuss these issues, alliance effectiveness and readiness, with our Japanese allies. We discuss them with our South Korean allies, but we are also very focused on the trilateral relationship because we know that with the trilateral relationship, in some ways, the sum is greater than its constituent parts. And we want to be prepared as allies in the United States, Japan, and South Korea for the challenges, for the threats, and yes, for the opportunities as well that arise in the region. President Biden, I think, demonstrated our commitment to trilateral cooperation in Cambodia late last year, when for the first time in some 5 years brought together the leaders of Japan, of South Korea, Secretary Blinken has on several occasions now brought together his counterparts from the ROK and from Japan as well. Deputy Sherman has done that. Sung Kim, our special envoy for the DPRK, routinely does that. We see it as a critical element when it comes to our efforts to confront the challenges to the vision of a free and open Indo-Pacific that the DPRK poses. Yes.
So, a follow-up on this. Yesterday, we heard Secretary Austin specifically mentioning Article 5 of the security treaty between U.S. and Japan. Why he needed to express it? Because historically, the article has been there for decades. And how will this statement implicate itself differently other than up to date the historical implications of that article?
So Secretary Austin and Secretary Blinken were referring to Article 5 of the Japan-U.S. Mutual Defense Treaty yesterday, specifically in the domain of space. The Secretary and Foreign Minister will sign a framework agreement tomorrow at NASA, in fact, on space cooperation between the United States and Japan. This agreement has been more than a decade in the making. It covers a range of civilian space coordination, from research collaboration to working together to land the first woman and person of color on the moon. And they also made reference to the fact for the first time that as allies, we have decided that certain attacks in or from space may invoke Article 5. Those are issues that we will look at as allies on a case-by-case basis. But again, it's all part and parcel of our effort to modernize the alliance, to ensure that the alliance is strong, effective, ready across all the domains: land, sea, air, cyberspace, outer space.
Also,